Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Casper, Wyoming, are you ready? There's only one thing left to say. Let's get ready for the ultimate rumble!
I went to St. Louis, Missouri the other day. They had Black Panthers from all over the country. No one knew about it at all. They had machine guns, recoilless rifles, grease guns, Lugers, 25 of them, all armed. And the chief police met me at the airport when I arrived, and they were there, right there at the steps. They said you were violating the law. Yeah, we're violating the law. I said, we're tired.
Black Power, y'all, what's up? All power to the people. The black lion.
Because they say that if you arrest one, then someone's going to die. Because we are ready to kill.
Give out the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Don't help me. God.
Just as surely as you're proud to be white, we're proud to be
Proud
black.
to be black,
baby. It's pretty. Nobody say to my brothers and they don't worry about the white chicks. We got everything. Don't chalk the chop.
Chop the chop, yeah. Black is beautiful.
Black power means dignity.
Dignity.
Means we're gonna walk side by side with you, or through you. We're gonna be with dignity and integrity. You don't want any more than you have. And we're not gonna accept
any less than you have.
That's black power.
That's black power. Yeah. And if you don't know, you better not ask nobody, because they all gonna lie. Gotta come right here and give you that unadulterated black powerful truth.
I will never say that progress is being made. If you take a knife and my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's below me. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less trying to heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
They won't even admit the knife is there, y'all. So I'm here to let you know you got a knife in your back. Just down to the ground. Time to get it on. Unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, I'm sure y'all are definitely aware of what's going on. But were they aware that missiles as well as were they aware that missiles shoot both ways, just like they say bullets go both ways? So the missiles, come on now.
Says that it has identified as many as 100 drones launched by Iran heading toward Israeli airspace, and Israel says that it has started to at least attempt to shoot down some of those drones over Syrian airspace, as Jordan is attempting to take down some of the drones that are above its airspace. At the same time, we just got this new alert from Israel's home command urging people that they do not need to stay as close to shelters as they had been in the previous hours, indicating that Israel and the Israeli Defense Defense Force believe at this point that they will be able to take out the incoming threat as we await what could be these waves of drones sent over anytime this hour. All of this follows what happened earlier this morning when Israel says it targeted the heart of Iran's nuclear capabilities in an operation it calls Rising Lion.
The Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal.
Well, I'm telling you now. Let's see how good this microphone is. This is supposed to be one of the mics you pick up everything, like, picking your teeth. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. That's not funny unless they use a laugh track. But we don't have time for that. I know my people was busy and got stuff to do. Ain't that right? Okay. Now tell me how you really feel. I mean, okay. But in the meantime, in between time, let's see what's
distance
up.
of a small city. At Mach 15, we're talking about a weapon that moves so fast that from the moment radar detects it until impact, defenders might have less than 60 seconds to react. And
I'm just reacting to the missile.
But here's what makes this truly terrifying. It's not just the speed. This missile doesn't fly in a predictable arc like traditional ballistic missiles that defense systems were designed to intercept. It maneuvers, it changes direction, it dips and weaves through the atmosphere like a quarterback evading tackles. Except this quarterback is moving at 11,000 miles per hour and carrying enough explosive power to level entire city blocks. Iran just used this weapon against Israel, and every military planner from Washington to Tel Aviv to Riyadh is coming to terms with a new reality. There is currently no defense system on Earth proven capable of reliably stopping what Iran just unleashed. Welcome back to War and Wealth, where we break down the military developments that are literally reshaping global power dynamics in real time. What you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you understand modern warfare and why everything we thought we knew about missile defense just became obsolete. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now, because this technology changes the game completely, and you need to understand it before it shows up in the news headlines. To grasp why the Fateh hypersonic missile represents such a paradigm shift, you need to understand what makes hypersonic weapons different from everything that came before. Traditional ballistic missiles, even advanced ones, follow predictable paths. They launch, they arc through space or the upper atmosphere, and they come down on a trajectory that computers can calculate.
So
it's complex math, but it's still just math.
Californians,
defense systems like Patriot,
ready.
THAAD, or Israel's Arrow are essentially solving a geometry problem. Where will the missile be at a specific moment? And can we get an interceptor to that exact spot at that exact time? With enough radar data and computing power, this is achievable, which is why these systems have had reasonable success rates against conventional ballistic missiles. Hypersonic weapons shatter this entire defensive concept because they don't follow predictable paths. The Fateh missile combines two technologies that individually would be challenging to counter, but together create an almost impossible defensive problem. First, it achieves speeds above Mach 5, which technically qualifies as hypersonic, but Iran claims the Fateh reaches Mach 15, putting it in an entirely different category of threat. At these speeds, the plasma field generated around the missile by atmospheric friction can actually interfere with radar tracking, making it harder to maintain a lock on the target. Second, and this is the real game changer, it can maneuver during flight using control surfaces that remain functional even at extreme speeds and temperatures. This means that even if you calculate where it should be, it might not be there when your interceptor arrives. The physics of intercepting something moving at Mach 15 are brutally unforgiving. At that speed, the missile covers about 3.5 miles every second. From the time a defensive system detects the threat, identifies it as hostile, calculates an intercept solution, and launches a counter missile, the hypersonic weapon has already traveled dozens of miles closer to its target. The margin for error is essentially zero. If your interceptor is off by even a fraction of a degree, by the time it reaches the calculated intercept point, the target could be miles away. Now add in the fact that the target can actively maneuver to avoid interception, and you begin to understand why military experts are calling this weapon system a defensive nightmare. Iran's development of the Fateh hypersonic missile didn't happen overnight, and understanding its origins helps explain why this represents such a strategic achievement for Tehran. For years, Iran has been systematically advancing its missile program, learning from each test, incorporating foreign technology where possible, and developing indigenous solutions where necessary. The Fateh program reportedly began over a decade ago, with Iranian engineers studying captured American drones. Russian missile technology, and Chinese research papers on hypersonic flight. They faced enormous technical challenges. Materials that could withstand the heat of hypersonic flight, guidance systems that could function in the electromagnetic chaos created by plasma fields, and propulsion systems capable of achieving and sustaining such extreme velocities. The specific capabilities of the Fateh missile are still being analyzed by intelligence agencies, but what we know is deeply concerning. The missile reportedly uses a solid fuel rocket motor for its initial boost phase, accelerating at the hypersonic speeds within seconds of launch. Once at altitude, it transitions to what's called a hypersonic glide vehicle configuration, using its speed and control surfaces to skip along the upper atmosphere like a stone across water. This flight profile keeps it low enough to avoid early detection by space-based sensors, but high enough to maintain extreme speeds. The terminal phase, when it dives toward its target, is where the maneuvering capability becomes most deadly. The missile can perform evasive maneuvers while maintaining speeds that make interception virtually impossible. The timing of Iran's decision to use this weapon against Israel is strategically calculated for maximum psychological and political impact. By demonstrating hypersonic capability in actual combat conditions, Iran isn't just attacking Israel, it's sending a message to every American military base in the Middle East, every Gulf state considering normalizing relations with Israel, and every global power that thought Iran could be contained through conventional deterrence. The message is clear. We have weapons you cannot stop, and we're willing to use them. This fundamentally alters the strategic calculus for every actor in the region. Israel's vaunted multi-layered defense system, which we discussed as struggling against conventional saturation attacks, is essentially helpless against hypersonic threats. Iron Dome was designed for short-range rockets and has no capability against hypersonic missiles. David's Sling, built for medium-range threats, cannot track or engage targets moving at Mach 15. Even Arrow 3, designed specifically for ballistic missile defense and capable of exoatmospheric interception, faces nearly insurmountable challenges against a maneuvering hypersonic weapon. The radar systems need to maintain continuous tracking. The battle management systems need to predict where a maneuvering target will be. And the interceptor needs to reach that point in space and time perfectly, all while dealing with a target moving faster than any weapon these systems were designed to counter. The implications for American military assets in the region are equally sobering. Every U.S. base from Kuwait to Qatar to the UAE is within range of Iranian missiles, and if those missiles are hypersonic, current defensive measures are inadequate. The billions of dollars invested in Patriot batteries, THAAD systems, and Aegis installations throughout the region may provide some protection against conventional threats. But against hypersonic weapons, they're essentially expensive radar systems that can watch threats they cannot stop. This vulnerability extends to naval assets as well. Aircraft carriers and other ships that have relied on Aegis defensive systems now face weapons that could potentially strike before defensive measures can be effectively employed. The global proliferation concerns surrounding hypersonic technology cannot be overstated. Once a nation demonstrates operational hypersonic capability, others will inevitably seek to acquire or develop similar systems. Iran's successful deployment could accelerate hypersonic programs in countries like Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and others who suddenly realize they need either hypersonic weapons of their own or defensive systems that don't yet exist. The technology itself, while complex, is not beyond the reach of determined nations with adequate resources. The materials, science, propulsion technology, and guidance systems required are challenging, but not impossible to develop or acquire through various means. The economic implications of hypersonic proliferation are staggering. Current missile defense systems costing billions of dollars are being rendered obsolete almost overnight. Nations that invested heavily in these defensive systems now need to either develop new technologies or accept vulnerability. The research and development costs for hypersonic defense could run into hundreds of billions globally, money that will have to be diverted from other priorities. Meanwhile, the relative cost of hypersonic offensive weapons is far lower than the defensive systems needed to counter them, creating the same unfavorable cost equation we've seen with other asymmetric weapons, but on a much larger scale. Russia and China, both of which have been developing their own hypersonic programs, are watching Iran's use of this technology with intense interest. Russia's Kinzhal and Zircon missiles and China's DF-ZEGF hypersonic glide vehicle represent parallel development efforts that have until now remained largely theoretical threats. Iran's operational use of hypersonic weapons in combat provides real-world data about their effectiveness and the inability of current defenses to counter them. This could embolden both nations to be more aggressive in their own use of hypersonic threats, knowing that American and allied defenses cannot permanently stop them.
By the way, Trump already said that if Iran or any other nation was to bump him off, for that nation would be total obliteration. And then the Congress has to approve that. Now, since he never goes through Congress to ask for approval on anything, it's going to be almost like Vito Genovese bumping heads with Lucky Luciano when he said, we're going to make the commission. It was like, man, Albert Anastasia already said he daggone mobster. He the capo de capo. You know what I mean? The Godfather, the deal, real deal, man. So that's what I kind of like what Trump want to be, but nah, he ain't gonna be. We can't let him get away with all that. So you can stop that nonsense, Donnie. Because we've been there and we've done that already. We know what time it is. You know? What they expect, I'm going to tell you what they expect. This is what they expect. Your president, Donald Trump, trying to figure this mess out. He said, look here, man, how am I going to escape these Epstein files? There's got to be a way about it. Well, Jared Kushner says, maybe we should start a war. God damn. When I start taking advice from Putin, right. Jump! 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 I was telling somebody earlier, I wouldn't tell nobody to join the military right now. It's like, hell no, bet not. Why in the hell would I do that? Unless, of course, I don't like them. Then I say, yes, this is a good time to join. A very excellent time to join. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, no. I don't think so. So back to the, I'm your war correspondent right now. You know what I mean? check this out. I'm about to bring y'all something special. Special as possible. Here we go. Better put them headphones on. Y'all be hearing echoing. Here we go.
Contrast from the Iranians celebrating in the streets after the death of Ayatollah Khamenei. Tonight, while many of those voices may be silent publicly, ABC News has been obtaining voice memos from Iranians who have hope for a future without the Islamic Republic. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports on their stories.
It was around 1 a.m. All the people in my neighborhood, they were screaming, they were shouting, and it was like a celebration, and everybody was shouting that Khamenei, and we were so happy.
And I saw that it's confirmed. He is dead after this many being killed and this much suffering in that region. They are a cancerous soul. They have to be removed. And there was no other way.
After months of protesting, risking their lives, of calling for the downfall of the regime, the news came like a thunderbolt. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had been killed.
A short time ago, President Trump confirming Iran's supreme leader is dead.
Hope was rekindled for the tens of thousands still mourning those murdered by the regime during protests earlier this year. ABC News has been trying to connect with Iranians on the ground to get a sense of what their life has been like since the war began. Those who sent messages remain anonymous, and some voices altered for their safety. When the war began, the regime once again cut off internet and communications across the country, controlling its people along with their messages of resilience.
I think it was the second day of the war when they were hitting the state television headquarters and Tehran's IRGC base. I actually woke up thinking that was an earthquake that hit Tehran.
We are hopeful, and
you think?
We are waiting for the day that this country
is
free. To be honest, the life
be out there with no mask on, shaking fists in the air and say, "Motherfuckers!"
Grocery stores are open. And we
ain't playing with y'all.
Running water, and
that's how we
hear the attacks like every 3 or 4 hours, and some days maybe less. But I can say the sound, it keeps us going. We are grateful for this opportunity, and we are waiting for the day that
y'all got the revolutionary, the black revolutionary voice of the people
from the Islamic regime.
We check the news. We try to keep the connection to the satellite TVs and by the phone. Although we are in a total blackout, and the slightest connection that we have is very insecure. But we try to be informed.
President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have both encouraged the Iranian people to rise up when the bombing stops. But the security forces are still in control of the streets, angry at the supreme leader's death and US-Israeli attacks.
It's very scary because they all have guns, and they are very furious now because they have lost the supreme leader, and we are very happy about that. We celebrate it, we drink, and we have parties in our houses, but it is very, very dangerous outside. Everybody from the regime and IRGC has the gun. Most of them are very ugly and furious, and they have free will to shoot everybody.
A woman who was in Tehran during the first week of the war telling us her home was close to a few regime targets. And as the attacks went on, the days got darker.
The house was shaking. I don't know, a few seconds later when they finally hit the target, and the blast wave was so strong that the doors and windows frames were about to fall out of their place, and it was very, very, very scary. The atmosphere in Tehran is much, much scarier than the first days now, and many people are scared. I really, really think that the conditions are getting harder every day for those who stayed in Tehran.
We are worried that maybe this war stops before the complete regime change, and we want this war as a help, as Mr. Trump has promised us.
I hope people would come inside and see Iran and enjoy, and we can show them the true Persian, hospitality. I want the world to know that the whole Iran situation is caused by 47 years of Islamic Republic ruling. Started with Khomeini.
People were anticipating this attack and understood the cost. I know it's sad, but people were in favor of this attack and still are. The mission is clear, a free Iran. And I assume by now everyone knows this deeply entrenched, heavily armed regime could not be removed by the sheer force of protests. Foreign intervention was needed. People in Iran are not idiots. We don't think Trump or anyone is doing this for human rights only. We have to work with what we have. Every life lost matters beyond words, and we will get to mourning every single one that's passed away throughout the past few months.
With the death toll now over 1,000 and rising, many still appear to support the war, but it remains highly questionable whether this will be a trigger for ordinary Iranians to take back their country.
Never be down with that. But they don't care about us, you know what I mean? So we better care about us. And check this out.
The occupied West Bank and dropping smaller bomblets, which are found inside the missile. A specialist at Armament Research Services confirmed that based on the number of visible objects seen, these are cluster munitions. Israel has accused Iran of using cluster munitions during this war, which Israel has used in previous wars in Lebanon, according to experts. According to AP reporting, the US used them last in 2003 in Iraq and has not joined a convention banning their use. Iran's latest attack comes as intense Israeli airstrikes continue to pound the capitals of Iran and Lebanon. The Israeli military says the fighting has destroyed most of Iran's air defenses and missile launchers. The broadening Iran war has ricocheted across the region and beyond, with nearly every country in the Middle East sustaining damage from missile hits, drone strikes, or shrapnel. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has warned that strikes against Tehran are about to surge dramatically.
We warn the criminal and anti-human enemy that revenge and blood vengeance for the martyred Imam and the martyrs of recent crimes is on the agenda of the country's armed force.
Tehran's latest revenge barrage is crippling Israel's security with a new class of missiles. Iran has now kicked off the 24th wave of its True Promise 4 operation, showcasing a never-seen-before missile.
See, the true meaning of propaganda is they're going to show
Questions are swirling over whether Israel was caught off guard in these latest strikes, as air raid alerts to civilians reportedly came late.
It was over in 1 day, 1 hour, done and
The growing
dead.
fear now is that Israel's air defense systems may be struggling to keep pace with Iran's next-generation missiles.
So I got to bring it to y'all.
Iran has launched a fresh wave of attacks on Israel, firing new ballistic missiles toward Tel Aviv and several other key areas across the country. According to an IRGC statement, every missile fired in the March 6th barrage successfully hit its designated target, at least from Tehran's perspective.
What they say, stuff is sweet.
This latest round of strikes, the 24th wave of True Promise 4, was launched under the religiously charged code name Yemedi. Air raid sirens blared across parts of southern and central Israel, while residents in Beersheba reported hearing several loud explosions. The IRGC claimed its missiles in Beersheba were aimed specifically at technology hubs, cybersecurity facilities, and military centers linked to Israel's war effort. IRGC-affiliated media reported that one Iranian missile struck Tel Aviv and then detonated a few minutes after impact, implying a delayed fuse or specialized warhead. Israeli media, however, said at least one missile was intercepted in the latest salvo and that there were no confirmed direct impact sites in populated areas. So far, there have been no reported injuries from this particular round of Iranian ballistic missile attacks, despite the alarms and explosions. The IRGC says its missile launches began almost immediately after Israel carried out strikes on targets in and around Tehran's Mehrabad airport. At the same time, Israel's Home Front Command appears to have issued noticeably shorter early warning times for incoming missile threats. In one case, an alert went out at 7:16 p.m. local time and sirens began wailing just 3 minutes later, giving residents limited time to react. Later that evening, a second warning came at 8:40 p.m., with sirens sounding only about a minute after the alert was issued. A third alert at 9:54 p.m. was followed by sirens just 2 minutes later, again showing a very tight window between detection and public warning. Earlier in the day, the gap between an early warning and the corresponding siren had been closer to 6 minutes, allowing more time for people to reach shelters.
Trust me, I know that the lawn care off-season can be really tough for some people. I like to take the time to relax, spend it with family, catch up on projects around the house, and change anything in the business that has been bothering me. Which used to be organization in the business until I started using Jobber a few years back, and that simplified everything. It improved communication with the client.
Yeah, your war correspondent, y'all. Somebody's got to do it, right? So here I am. And we're going to tell you get a little bit of both sides. Because missiles and bullets shoot both ways. You know what I mean?
In West Jerusalem, where dozens of people were injured after an Iranian missile impact. Iran has unleashed its advanced missile arsenal, deploying Fateh series of missiles in retaliatory strikes against US bases and Israeli targets. These missiles are now beating the famed Iron Dome, the Iron Beam, in their own game. Iran has dared both US and Israel that so far they have only used older missile models in retaliatory strikes and has not yet deployed its latest, most advanced weaponry. But now this seems to be changing. According to footage circulating online, missiles using cluster munitions were reportedly seen over central Israel during the latest barrage from Iran on Sunday evening. Following the barrage, David Adam said that its paramedics were dispatched to sites of reported missile impacts in central Israel. On Saturday, the international spokesperson of IDF, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Soshani, accused Iran for firing missiles containing cluster submunitions at a densely populated civilian area in Israel to cause extensive damage to lives. Cluster weapons are designed to disperse over a large area and maximize the chances of a harmful strike. International humanitarian law forbids indiscriminate attacks, particularly those involving weapons that cannot be precisely directed at a specific military target. Launching such attacks into areas where civilians are present constitutes a war crime. Iran also fields one of West Asia's largest ballistic missile arsenals. Its inventory includes short and medium range systems with a focus on precision and mobility. Some variants, such as the Khalij Fars, are configured for anti-ship missions. Iran is reported to possess more than 3,000 such ballistic missiles. The Imad is a liquid-fueled medium-range ballistic missile derived from the Shahab-3. It has a range of 1,700 kilometers and carries a 750-kilogram warhead. The Haj Qasim, named after Qasem Soleimani, is a solid-fueled medium-range ballistic missile. It has a range of 1,400 kilometers and carries a 500-kilogram payload. The Hoveze is a land attack cruise missile powered by a turbojet engine. It has a reported range of 1,350 kilometers and flies at low altitude to reduce detection.
Before the world wakes up, before the emails, before the noise, there are those who rise to see more. Some fly for the view, some fly for the vision, some fly because decisions depend on it. When the right tool is an option, when clarity changes outcomes, professionals trust what works.
He said he doesn't think really that they would seriously consider, for example, reinstituting the draft, but leaving these options open, the way Caroline Leavitt puts it, do you think it's because they don't ever actually know what this president is going to do, or he just wants to use that as kind of a form of threat? What do you see it as?
Well, probably a little bit of both. Don't forget, this is a president who says first and thinks later. So it's sometimes difficult to tell what he actually has in his mind. He forgets that he himself was a draft dodger, so it's difficult to envision how there's going to be any interest, even if the White House.
But what about boots on the ground? Under what circumstances could you see?
Well, two come immediately to mind. The first thing is that most people, when they think about boots on the ground, they're thinking about large-scale introduction of troops of the kind that we saw in Iraq, hundreds of thousands of troops. When I got to Vietnam, there were 500,000 troops there. We're not going to do that. And there's a number of reasons why we're not going to do that. You've got a country of 90 million people with an area larger than France, Germany, and Spain combined. You've got, you would have an enemy contingent of something like 500,000 or 600,000 Iranian soldiers, and that includes the Republican Guards, plus some militia. It's hard to envision that's actually happening, and to what end? I mean, at the end of the Second World War, we had something like 500,000 troops in Germany. We kept about 80,000 of them in a country that had been roundly defeated and had submitted itself to American control. And we're not doing that in Iran. The other possibility is the use of special operations forces in relatively small numbers to conduct small unit attacks and raids to accomplish some tactical objective, and to go in there and then withdraw. That's going to be extremely difficult in a place like Iran, and much more difficult than it was in Venezuela, for example. But I think the president's probably keeping that option open to the extent that there is one or maybe more targets that they'd like to attack, to seize control for a short period of time, or to destroy on the ground small targets inside Iran. I can't see how we're going to do anything more than that.
Well, to your point, in the first regard, which is the strength of the Iranian military, just I've seen estimates with militias and everything else up to 1 million people who would be willing to fight. There's a new interview with the Iranian foreign minister who says his country is preparing to take on the possibility of U.S. ground troops. Here's what he said.
For the time being, we are capable enough. We have very brave soldiers who are waiting for any enemy who enter into our soil to fight with them and to kill them and destroy them.
How much of that is bluster? How much reality?
A little bit of both there too. I mean, it's sort of whistling in the dark. They're hoping that the United States is not going to descend on them with 1 million troops, which we're not going to do. And so they're saying that, but they also have the capability to defend specific places with large numbers of troops. They do have, you know, we're talking about doing things like arming the Kurds to go after the Republican Guards. The Kurds are very small in number, and it doesn't matter what we give them in the way of armament. They're never going to be as well armed as the Iranian army. So a little bit of bluster and a little bit of whistling in the dark, but I think they have a high degree of confidence. We're not going to descend with a lot of American troops in Iran. And if we do anything, it'll be raids on specific targets to achieve small tactical goals.
Jack Jacobs, always good to see you, Colonel.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
Enough of that. I can only stand so much war. So, been a pleasure hanging out with y'all. And I'm out of here.
The owner's big $1 million making in the white man's world of prestige, who speechless people 100% and don't give a damn about the money, being shot, take the title, take it all, and to go to jail tomorrow. I love my people, and I'm not going to sell them out, make no movies, and mislead them and marry blondes, because I'm one Negro who the boss let me come in the castle, and the rest of them in the fields catching hell. I'm going to the fields and represent them if it means die. So that's why I'll fight.